David Cohen, Director of Alumni Relations at LaSalle High School. This is incredible. We've been waiting for this for a long time. You won't believe the Alumni Spotlight we have tonight. We are going to spotlight 1986 grad Homer Liwag. He's big time here at MGM Grand, one of the big dogs right here at the David Copperfield Theater. This is going to be unbelievable. Let's go inside and meet Homer Liwag and talk about what he's doing here on this big platform here in Las Vegas.
Here. Take interview with the Salle alumni with David Cohen. Did I get your name correctly?
Yes, sir.
And take one.
What is your official title that we can put on the graphic at the bottom?
Rice chef. No. My official title is co-director and design director. I was a design director for many years, and just in the last 3 years became the co-director, where I'm more responsible for exactly what you see on stage. As a design director, it's more working on the illusions, how they work, how they look, how they are made. But with being co-director now, it's encompassing everything, including everything you see here and in the show. So. I went to a couple of grade schools. I started out at Summit Country Day for a couple years, and I went to St. Teresa's Little Flower, and that's where I went to grade school all the way through 8th grade. From there I went to St. X. I went to LaSalle High School starting my sophomore year through senior year. Cincinnati is growing on me. When you're growing up as a child, you take a lot for granted because you're worried about your bike being fixed and your trading cards that you're buying at the local pharmacy. Just recently, I went back to Cincinnati and I really got to experience Cincinnati in a new light. There's so much amazing history and architecture there. In fact, there was just a movie shot there called Carol, and they used, I believe, Over the Rhine and those areas as 1950s New York. When I was at Cincinnati, I got to really experience, first of all, the people, living in Las Vegas and the West Coast for so long. You get used to maybe a different mentality, good or bad, but going back to Cincinnati, the Midwest has a different heart to it. But I remember spending some time in Cincinnati about 4 or 5 months ago and going to, is it Rheingeist? And it's this gigantic old brick building with a brewery in it and a huge open area with 40, 50-foot ceilings, giant ceiling fans, and the walls look like they haven't been touched in 50, 60 years. Now, if that were in Las Vegas, that would have been a nightclub. It would have been, partitioned off, walls built, lights put in, you wouldn't even recognize the building. Or it would have been turned into offices and made retail space to capitalize on the space for the money. But to experience Rheingeist as this open space where people were playing, was it cornhole? They left the space a community, kind of an eye-opening experience to see how a community can be and not being taken advantage by commercialism. And the fact that I could walk outside and go down the new Over the Rhine area and all these great little pubs and one-of-a-kind shops, and that's what you normally would go to New York City for. I can go to Cincinnati and get a very unique experience. My memories at LaSalle, I forgot about tennis. I completely forgot that that's where I had my little mini tennis career. I was
number one in the city.
I was first singles for the team. I wasn't number one in the city.
It sounds better.
It does sound better. But I did have a good record at 15-5, and those 5 losses were to only 3 people. So I was a late starter. I started playing tennis basically my freshman year. That's when I started playing tennis. And most people are playing tennis when they're 4 years old.
Now, do you remember where you played the home courts were back in the day?
Yes, they were at Mount Airy Grade School. I was able to walk from my backyard through the woods through their soccer field to their tennis courts. And what I used to do, I couldn't really afford to go to, Colonial Racket Club or any of the racket clubs because we didn't have much money. After school, I'd walk from my house and I would go into those courts and I would hit against, in the parking lot in the back of the Mount Airy school, there was a pretty tall wall. I spent hundreds of hours hitting against that wall. And then the locals would start showing up. Some of these older guys would usually show up by, 4 or 5 o'clock, and I'd try to ask to hit with them. And that was my tennis upbringing. And I have a funny story. I remember, how when you're a kid and you just tell yourself, I want to be great at something. I remember telling myself, all right, I'm going to become a great tennis player. So my plan was to get up really early, 3 times a week, go to that wall with a tennis racket and balls, and practice. And I was committed to becoming the best. I want to be the best tennis player ever, right? As a kid. So I grabbed 2 balls and a racket, and I get up, I set an alarm, I get up at whatever it was, 6:30 in the morning. You could almost hear the music, right? The Rocky music playing, and this is the start of becoming the best tennis player in history, whatever I was in my head at the time. Walk through the woods, I get up there, and I remember kind of just smelling the air, fresh cut grass, the birds chirping, the dew on the grass. And I take that first ball, I'm standing in front of that wall, and I swing and hit the ball, hits the top of the racket, the ball flies over that 40-foot wall. Okay, one more ball. Same thing, take the ball, swing, hits the top of the racket, goes up over that 40-foot wall. I'm standing there with no tennis balls and a racket. It's 6:45 in the morning. Slump, walk back, go to school, and never did it again. One of the things that I always take from LaSalle is my experience in their band program. I was in jazz band, concert band, and marching band. And marching band was an amazing experience. I was thinking of this earlier before this interview that, marching band is a great combination of first of all, you're learning how to play an instrument, and that's almost secondary. What you're really learning is teamwork, learning how to get along with others, and there's the camaraderie and the family that you become as a band. You go to band camp and you go to the woods for 2 weeks, and you wake up with shaving cream on your face because you're new, and all that, at the time is just silly fun, but you're realizing you're learning how to build relationships. And then there's a technical side. Besides learning how to play an instrument, you're learning, when you're in marching band, you're really learning timing and coordination of a large group of people. And I use that every day in the show. Just yesterday, we put in a brand new trick or illusion in the show, and it required a few people to come on stage at a certain time. And because they're coming from different distances, they had to come at different speeds, meet at a certain spot, and then when David turns around, one person walks forward 2 steps, grabs something, and then the other person, a beat later, walks forward 2 steps, and that's all. All that comes from my marching band experience. It's amazing, even today, years later, how I can draw on my experiences at LaSalle with something that happens on our stage. My mom and dad are very important. They've always been very supported. My mom always wanted me to have the best in everything, always the best schools. I had piano lessons and tap dancing lessons. My mom was a nurse and at the university hospital, and my dad was a fine artist. It was a great mix of the logical and the organized with the artistic, because my dad was extremely talented, and still is, extremely talented artist, painter, and sculptor. And I have definitely, probably more than anything, sponged all my artistic skill and artistic sense from my dad, for sure. So it was a great combination of that supportive, I want you to be the best at everything you do, and just raw art talent that I got from my parents. So after LaSalle, I wanted to, I was starting to do more art, and I didn't really have a career path at the time. Definitely wasn't going to play tennis. I think my mom mentioned something about medical illustration, because a typical Filipino mom always wants their kids to be doctors and lawyers for some reason. But I didn't have the grades for that. So I ended up trying to do something artistically. And I think my mom suggested medical illustration. And I thought, okay, that's not being a doctor, but I'm drawing things that are medical related. So somehow that would satisfy both of us. So I couldn't get into the graphic design department because it was very strict on grades. But I could apply to industrial design because part of industrial design was applying with a portfolio. So they ask you in your little entry form, can you draw a picture of something with a pencil, submit another drawing of a portrait? And I did that, and that was enough to get me into industrial design. So their industrial design program is a 5-year program, and I learned as much as I could. I wasn't the greatest student, but I did learn a lot. It, at the time, was a number 2 school in the country, right behind Art Center in Pasadena. And every single thing I did learn in industrial design, I apply every day here. And what's great about industrial design, it's a discipline of many disciplines. You learn how to draw, you learn how to draft. So not only are you drawing artistic things, you learn how to draft so that a manufacturer can make something. So it's very detailed, very precise on how you draw. You learn aesthetic skills, color and composition, because everything you're drawing and designing, you're doing that so that it has a viable place in the market. The reason why you're drawing this pen to be this color and this shape and that width and these graphics, that's all industrial design, because this pen has to sell itself different than another brand. And that's why industrial designers are valuable. So industrial design taught me so many skills: drawing, model making, working on a model back there, as you see, drawing, just hundreds of pages, and 22 years of drawing with David Copperfield here, all stems from everything I learned at the University of Cincinnati in the industrial design program. Around when I was in high school and college, I was big into magic as a hobby. In fact, I can't remember the teacher's name. We were studying history. On my lap was a magic book. And I was learning card tricks in my lap. So if this was the textbook, just below in my lap, I was reading a very difficult textbook on sleight of hand. And the teacher, back then you think you're getting away with stuff. These teachers are not, they're smart. Eventually he would go, oh, by the way, why don't you do this trick you're learning now for the class? So I remember getting up going, all right, I'm learning this move, this card trick, and I would do it for the class. I went, great, all right, let's go back to studies. So I do remember that. But that was when I was starting to learn sleight of hand. And that takes me into college. During college, I was learning more and more sleight of hand. I was going to more magic conventions. I was meeting more magicians. And eventually, I met a friend of mine. His name is Chris Kenner, and he's the executive producer here at David Copperfield. We became good friends. We published a few magazines and books together around 1991, 1992. He became good friends and magic consultant and executive producer for David Copperfield. And very shortly, I came on, because David's calling me right now. Hold on one second. Let me let that ring out. David's probably asking, okay, when's my interview? Where's my Skyline chili? Because that was his request. So Chris Kenner, the executive producer here, started working with David. Basically, the first time a opportunity opened up, because it was a pretty tight crew. It was 33 people. We were constantly on the road, and you couldn't just bring in an extra person. That's another bunk on the bus. It's another hotel room. When a secretarial spot opened up, an administrative assistant spot opened up, the first thing he said was, hey, my friend Homer, he can type fast. So I came in as administrative assistant. But within 2 weeks, David kind of knew me a little bit before through Chris. He started utilizing my skills as an industrial designer.
And what year are we talking now?
1994. So, we were in the process of working on our next TV special, and David had an illusion, and something about it he didn't like, and he said, hey, can you put your design skills to this? So I remember we were at Caesar's Palace at the time in Vegas, and my parents had been visiting me. And I remember they were asleep in my bed, and we had just finished the shows. And at the time, I was still the administrative assistant, so I wasn't really the artist. So after the shows was my only time to draw, because it wasn't really part of my job description yet. So I remember sitting at my desk in the dark with a lamp, and I sat there and I drew this giant 8-foot blade. I took the blade and I added a very sharp S-curve to it, so it looked like, just looking at it was menacing. And that was the first thing I drew for David, and 22 years later, I've got hundreds and hundreds of drawings like the ones you see around the room that are now in the show and been on TV specials. They've people see them every night, and it's great. So my responsibilities here include anything you really see or hear in the show, and that means it could be anything. One day I could come in and I have to get some video edited that gets played on the screen that night. Sometimes I come in and that video has to be edited, but the music has to change, and I have to edit the music. That can stop all of a sudden. Oh, David might have an idea for a script change, so I'll take a script and I'll rewrite a page of dialogue, and then go back and forth with David on the phone. What do you think of this? Well, let's change this. Let's move this here. Oh, that will affect the music. Well, there's no time for that. And there'll be a script change, and then we'll have to put it in that show tonight. And the best part about it is whatever we change, we can normally see it that same day. Imagine if a director got to put out a movie and every day take notes from that audience, change it every day for 2-3 years. The illusion we're doing one of the big illusions that you'll see today in the show, we've been working on for 4 years. And we just changed a giant portion of it 2 days ago. And that included script change, music change, choreography change, lighting changes. So my day-to-day is really unpredictable. ABC could call tomorrow, could call in an hour and say, hey, we want to we're here for a story, we want to shoot you tomorrow doing something, and we need to do an illusion that happens on the strip. We have to stop everything we're doing and come up with something for that moment. So it's really unpredictable. And sometimes we do have we have what we call our Homer list, and this is just one list, but to stack this thick of lists that we just keep firing on, and this list keeps growing and growing, but it can change at any moment based on just because we're sort of we're always evolving creatively. Some days I'm drawing and conceptualizing, or some days we're rehearsing. If we have a new illusion in the show, the thing we just put in the show required 6 people to rehearse. Something we're working on that's more long-term, every time we rehearse it takes 40 people. And that's just very hard to coordinate. So in a nutshell, my day-to-day is very unpredictable. I've always been the kind of person that as a kid, and I don't know why I did this, I don't know what brought me to do this, even when I was in grade school, I remember I would draw a Batmobile, and I used to take it to school, and I would want to put it up on the wall and people see it. And I don't know why I did that. I don't know why I wanted that attention. But and it's great with social media now and the internet, you can share things easily. If I wanted to draw something and put it on Instagram, you could see it in 30 seconds. And that's just part of my personality. And I want to, people to see me as a creative person, creating things that haven't been done before. And what a great venue to work with David, because David is pushing the envelope of things that have never been done before. And I just want people to remember me for doing unique things and doing things that are taking art forms to new levels. Sometimes we get caught up in our jobs and just our to-do lists and just trying to focus on what's next and what's next, that you kind of forget where you came from. Especially when, like this interview is great because it's just really making me stop for a second and realize, you know, a lot of who I am today is because of my parents. It's because of a city like Cincinnati from the Midwest that has just great heart and roots, and they understand that and they're preserving that. And just the teachers at school and the way they encourage you and kind of nurture you as a kid. When you're in school, you're not necessarily going to realize that. You're going to think it's homework and I have to be somewhere at a certain time. But, you know, now that I look back at it, everything I do every day here in my job is a culmination of everything I've experienced and everyone I was around back in Cincinnati.